You've wasted more nights than you can count. You know it. No need to deny it. You've gone to bed with that knot in your chest, that silent feeling that something isn't right. Another day gone without doing anything different, and yet here you are again repeating the same routine, as if change would happen on its own, as if by magic. But let me tell you something you might not want to hear. Change isn't a miracle. It's an assault. It doesn't arrive gently. It doesn't ask for permission. You either take it, or you stay exactly where you are. You have a life that doesn't fulfill you, and you know it. Every night when you turn off the light and are alone with your thoughts, that emptiness reminds you. But instead of facing it, you do the same thing you always do. You lie to yourself. You tell yourself tomorrow that now isn't the right time, that you need to take care of other things first. Lies, excuses, distractions. And so the days pass. So your life slips away. But listen, tonight can be different. Tonight can be your breaking point. Not because the universe decided to send you a sign. Not because destiny has a plan reserved for you. No, it can be different because you decide it will be, without permission, without condition. And this is where Tarantino comes in. Yes, Tarantino, because unlike what you believe, your story isn't set in stone. It can be rewritten. You can change the script. You can stop being an extra in your own movie. But there's a price. The truth. A truth that hurt. A truth not everyone is willing to face, because the method is brutally simple. A notebook, a pen, and the silence of the early hours. Nothing more. You don't need a guru. You don't need another book. You don't need motivation. You only need to face yourself and write about what you're doing wrong. No filters, no embellishments, no white lies to protect your ego. Write about every cowardly decision, every time you chose comfort over what was right, every dream you abandoned before even trying. Write until it hurt, because that's where change begins, when it burns to look directly at what you've been. Do you want to know why you don't change? Because you don't dare to look at yourself honestly. Because you'd rather keep repeating the same stories, the same excuses, the same "this is just how I am" mantras you've told yourself over and over to avoid facing the truth. Nietzsche put it plainly, become who you are. But to do that, you first have to discover who you really are. And you won't do that with motivational quotes or inspiring videos. You'll do it with an emotional autopsy. Raw, direct, brutal. Dostoevsky warned us, suffering is the path to oneself, but you've you've disguised it with empty entertainment. Social media, shows you rewatch on loop to avoid the silence. You've convinced yourself that if you ignore the problem, it'll disappear, but it doesn't. It just sinks deeper into you, and you feel it every time you pause and the noise fades. What lies beneath, if you're honest, is a disaster. But disasters can be rebuilt, and stories can be rewritten. Look at Tarantino, a guy with no connections, no money, no clear, but he had one thing, an obsession with the story he wanted to tell. His story, not the one the world expected of him, not the one others dictated. His. So now I ask you, what story are you writing? Is it truly yours, or are you just playing a role someone else gave you? The difference between those who change their lives and those who stay trapped isn't talent, luck, or connections. It's rawness. It's the ability to look in the mirror without softening the image, without makeup, without masks, like Tarantino with his scripts. No frills, raw, honest, lethal. This isn't about hating yourself. It's about having the courage to face your decisions like a surgeon without anesthesia. Because if you don't acknowledge your mistakes, how can you expect to correct them? If you keep making excuses, you'll stay stuck. So tonight, when everything is silent, take that notebook and pen and write uncensored. Every stupid decision, every fear that stopped you, every excuse you've swallowed as if it were true. Write until it makes you uncomfortable. And when you want to stop, keep writing, because that's the limit you need to break. That's where transformation begins. This isn't about fixing your entire life tonight. It's about one thing: making a decision. One, concrete, small, possible, something you can do differently tomorrow. Because if you wait until you feel ready, you never will. If you wait for the fear to disappear, it'll bury you. The only way to kill fear is to move despite it. The only way to change your story is to write it with your own hand. And here's the truth no one tells you. Yes, you can change your life in a single night. Not because everything magically falls into place, but because you decide to stop running. Because you stop lying to yourself. Because you finally sit down with yourself and say, enough. There's no predetermined fate, no inevitable ending, only the story you dare to tell and the one you resign yourself to living. So tell me, which one are you choosing? If you've made it this far, it's because something inside you already knows. You don't need anyone to tell you. You feel it every night when you turn off the light. That emptiness isn't a coincidence, it's an alarm. And it's not about luck or the universe being against you. It's a narrative problem. Your life isn't writing itself. Every scene, every line, every silence is defined by the decisions you make and the ones you avoid. You think inaction is neutral, that postponing isn't the same as failing, but it's not true. Every time you don't do what you know you should, you're actively choosing to stay in the same place. And that in itself is an act of self-sabotage. The world is full of background characters, people trapped in lives they didn't choose, who've convinced themselves that's just how life is, because they lacked the courage to question the story they were handed. You know what they all have in common? At some point they decided it was easier not to decide, that it was more comfortable to go with the flow, and that killed them inside. So let me say it plainly. There isn't just one script written for you. There isn't just one end. There are hundreds of versions of you waiting. Some shine, others are ruins, and each one depends on the decisions you make. Starting today, you can keep being the version of yourself that repeats the same mistakes, drags around the same habits, finds new excuses not to act. Or you can be the version that sits down tonight, picks up the pen, and starts dissecting their own life with brutal honesty. And I know what you're thinking. I don't have time. I don't have clarity. I don't have the strength. But that's not true. What you don't have is the courage to face what you already know. Because the real problem isn't a lack of answers. It's that you already have them, and you don't like them. You know exactly what you're doing wrong. You know where you're failing. You know which decisions are destroying your peace. But admitting it hurts, because it means staring into the eyes of the version of you that sabotaged your own path. Accepting that you've been the architect of your misery, that you could have done things differently, and that fucking hurt more than anything. But that pain, if you have the courage to go through it, is the only way out. Most people never get there. Most numb themselves. They dull the pain with social media, entertainment, routines that look like life, but are really prison. They wait for time to fix what they don't dare confront. But let me save you years of disappointment. Time heals nothing. If you don't act, it just turns into a graveyard of the versions of you that could have been but never were. And here's something almost no one values: silence. Yes, silent. Think about the moments when you've truly understood something profound about yourself. It was never in the middle of noise, never while scrolling on your phone. It was in solitude, at night, in those seconds before sleep, when you can't run from yourself. That's why you need to write in the early hours. Because it's the only time the world doesn't interrupt you, when no one demands anything from you, when you can listen to yourself without interfering. And if you're afraid to be alone with your thoughts, it's because you know there are monsters there, but those monsters are the ones you have to face. The night is your editing room. It's the time to cut scenes, rewrite dialogue, change the tone of your story. You don't have to fix everything tonight, but you have to start. Every minute you spend without taking control of your story is a minute someone else writes it for you. Social media, family expectations, cultural pressure, routine, they're all ready to fill the space you don't claim. But if you need proof that change is possible, look at Tarantino again. No one gave him permission. No one opened the door for him. No one told him it was his turn. He sat alone, in silence, and he wrote because he understood something you also need to understand. You don't need anyone's permission to rewrite your story. You don't need external validation. You don't need the world to tell you it's okay. You just need to decide, to sit down in front of the page and But there's one more trap. One almost everyone falls into when they try to change. They think it's about doing the right thing,
that change is about adding new habits, filling their calendar. No, real change starts by cutting, by letting go, by identifying what's rotten, and tearing it out by the roots. Can you imagine filming a movie without editing the previous scenes? It'd be a disaster. Before filming something new, you need to review the old. So do that tonight. But don't just write what you want to achieve. Write what you need to release. That relationship draining you, that habit killing you silently, that repetitive thought dragging you down every day. Find them, point them out, and do what a good director would. Cut them from the script. Because this isn't a fantasy story. It's not magic. It's not inspiration. It's a decision. Cold, hard, necessary. The decision to look in the mirror and not look away. And if you do this tonight, if you really do it, something inside you will start to shift. It won't be immediate. It won't be explosive. There won't be epic music playing in the background, or divine light shining down. But it'll be real, because the difference between a forgettable life and one that leaves a mark isn't talent, luck, or charisma. It's one thing: the ability to change course when all seems lost. And that starts with a silent decision. On an ordinary night, like this one, where the noise fades and the truth stands naked, where you finally understand you're not a side character, that the lead role was always yours, but you gave it up out of fear, comfort, not wanting to rock the boat. And now it's time to take it back. I'll tell you something no one says clearly enough. There's no point of no return, no magical sign that says this is the moment, no guarantees. There's only this tonight, this page, this decision. And if you keep postponing it, if you keep running, the day will come when you look back, and there's no room left to change. It won't be a dramatic collapse. It'll be an accumulation of small surrenders, excuses, silences, and that will build the cage where you'll live the rest of your life. That's why you have to decide now, not tomorrow, not next Monday, not next month. Now, because every day you postpone is a day the world steals from you. And believe me, the world is more than happy to take the place you don't claim. If you don't decide who you are, someone else will do it for you. That's how brutal it is. That's how true. And here comes the hardest part, the one no one wants to tell you, because it hurts, because it's uncomfortable, because it can't be dressed up in pretty speeches. No one is coming to save you. There's no secret mentor waiting for you, no magical hand to pull you out of the hole, no perfect moment marked on the calendar in neon lights, no safety net. There's just you, only you, and that shouldn't scare you. It should free you, because if you're the problem, then you're the solution. That gives you power, control, the chance to rewrite everything. Look around, observe carefully. The world is full of people living on autopilot, people who repeat the same pattern every day. Wake up, complain, distract themselves, sleep, repeat. They're the walking dead, not because they've stopped breathing, but because they've stopped deciding. And you, if you've made it this far, you can't afford to be one of them. You can't afford to sleepwalk through life. Because if you're here, listening to this, it's because something inside you is screaming for change. You know it. You feel it. And the only difference between those who change and those who stay trapped is this: the former act before they're ready. They don't wait for the fear to leave. They don't wait for absolute clarity. They don't wait for guarantees. Because they've understood what you're starting to grasp. Fear doesn't disappear before you start. It disappears along the way. So do something, anything, but do it tonight, not tomorrow, not later. Now, close your eyes for a moment and picture the scariest scenario tomorrow. You wake up and everything's the same. Same excuses, same fears, same habits, same emptiness. A month passes, nothing changes. A year, you're still the same. A decade, you're in the same place. What do you feel? If that image tightens your stomach, if it twists your insides, then you already have your answer. You can't keep postponing this. You can't afford another empty night. Life owes you nothing. It won't hand you anything, because you deserve it. It'll give you what you build with your own hand. And what you're building, with your inaction, is a prison. You're letting opportunities slip away. You're accepting mediocrity as if it were destiny. But it's not. It never was. It was always a choice. And tonight is the night. Everything can change. Because you don't need to have it all figured out. You don't need to feel inspired. You only need to be brutally honest with yourself. To write what you've avoided writing. to sit with your pain and your truth, and to start one line, one word, one act. That's all you need, because the exact moment you decide to stop running is the moment change begins. Silent, yes, but unstoppable. Right, without mercy, without anesthesia. Every lie you've told yourself, every excuse you've used as a shield, every habit you know is dragging you down. Write them, name them, because as long as you don't put them into words, they'll keep controlling you from the shadows. Writing isn't just catharsis, it's confrontation. It's taking everything you've repressed and putting it in front of you, unfiltered. And when you finish writing what's destroying you, write what you'll do tomorrow. One action, small, clear. Don't dream of transforming your entire life in 24 hours. You don't need that. You just need a crack, an opening in the script, where you can slip in and start editing the story. Because that's how it all begins. Not with explosions, not with fireworks, but with a concrete decision made in silence. And when you wake up tomorrow, do it. Even if you're afraid, even if your whole body shakes, even if your mind screams that you're not ready. Because that resistance is the signal. That discomfort is proof you're touching something real. And only those who touch what's real get the chance to change it. The rest keep acting in the fiction they've built to survive. But you didn't come here to survive. You came to The scariest thing isn't failing. The scariest thing is waking up one day, looking back and realizing your life was written by fear. That every scene you lived was chosen by others. That every word you didn't say was an opportunity you buried. And that now it's too late. Because time no longer forgives. Because the years don't come back. And because you don't even recognize yourself anymore. But today isn't that day. Today you can still decide. Today you can still pick up the pen and say, this scene ends here. This character isn't me. This version doesn't represent me. And write something else. Rewrite everything. You don't have to know how it ends. You just have to know you don't want to keep living this act. Look around. Most people are trapped in narratives they didn't choose. Jobs they hate. Relationships that consume them. Thoughts that poison them. And you know what got them there? It wasn't some grand tragedy. It was a series of small decisions. Not made. It was cowardice repeated in small doses. It was comfort disguised as logic. And if you've made it this far, you're already outside that circle. Because once you see the lie, you can't unsee it. You can only act. Action isn't heroic, it's necessary. Don't wait to feel strong. Don't wait to understand everything. Act from the chaos, from the doubt, from the fear. Because what you're facing isn't just a stagnant life. It's a borrowed one. A story written to please, to fit in, to survive. And that isn't living. Tonight, while the world sleeps, you have the chance to choose. A notebook, a pen, and your truth. It doesn't matter how many times you've failed before. It doesn't matter how many times you've betrayed yourself. Tonight isn't about what you've been. It's about what you're willing to become. And if you do the work, if you sit down and write with fury, pain, fire, something inside you will break. Something will fall away. And through that gap, light will enter. Not because someone came to save you, but because you finally decided to light the flame. Because you finally decided you won't die with this story untold. And you know what the most beautiful irony is? You don't have to change your whole life to feel alive. You just have to change your relationship with yourself. Stop running. Stop betraying yourself. Stop ignoring that inner voice that tells you every night that you're meant for more. Not more achievements, not more recognition, more truth, more presence, more purpose. Life isn't a fixed script. It's a blank page every night. And every word you write on it can be an act of rebellion against the destiny others have mapped out for you. You can write enough. You can write I start today. You can write what no one else dared to say. Because this story is yours. And no one will write it better than you. Don't worry about quality. Worry about honesty. Don't worry about how the world will see you. Worry about how you see yourself when you close your eyes. Because at the end of the day, when the lights go out and the noise fades, that's all there is, your story. And the most important question of all, did you live it, or did you just survive it? Tonight can be the border between two lives. Not because the world changes, but because you change. Because you stop waiting. Because you stop postponing. Because you get sick of your own cowardice and decide enough. Because you choose to write from the wound, from the fire, from the hunger for truth. And in that act, something new is born. You won't understand everything now. You won't fix everything this week. But that doesn't matter. What matters is that this time, you didn't lie to yourself. That this time, even if trembling, you sat down with yourself. You wrote, you cried, you tore off the mask, and finally you began. Because that first step, as small as it seems, is everything. It's the seed. It's the turning point. It's the scene where the protagonist stops being a victim and becomes the author. And that, my friend, doesn't just change your story. It changes everything. Because when the protagonist takes control, the whole script trembles. Everything that once seemed fixed becomes flexible. Scenes change. Characters change. Even possible endings multiply. You know why? Because the story was never external. It was always you, your decisions, your voice, your pen, your courage. And this is where Tarantino makes sense again. He didn't ask for permission. He didn't follow the traditional path. He didn't wait to be discovered. He took his obsession with stories, with rawness, with authenticity, and turned it into his life. That doesn't make him a genius. It makes him someone who dared to bet on his narrative, without asking for approval. And you can do that too. But you'll have to stop comparing yourself. You'll have to kill the what will they think. You'll have to bury the versions of you that exist only to please others. You'll have to write sentences you never thought would come from you, confessions you hid out of fear, longings you buried out of shame. You'll have to turn your notebook into a battlefield and win that war. Because that's the real transformation, not changing who you are, but recovering who you stopped being. And for that there's no smooth path, no safe route, just a pen, a notebook, one night, and the decision to wait no longer. That decision changes everything. Not the grand act, not the heroic feat, just that silent, intimate decision, where you declare this story ends here, where you admit the character you've played for years isn't, that the fear you've respected so much is actually a faceless ghost, and that for the first time, you'll speak from the place that scares you most, your truth. Because here's what no one has told you: the bravest thing isn't fighting the world, it's facing yourself, sitting with your contradictions, admitting you've been cruel to yourself, that you've said yes when you wanted to scream no, that you've smiled when you wanted to cry, that you've followed paths you didn't believe in, just to avoid disappointing others, and that you can't pay that price anymore. The soul doesn't shout, it whispers, and you've ignored it for too long, but it's still there, still speaking to you. Every time you feel something is broken, every time routine suffocates you, every time you look at your reflection and feel it isn't you, that's no coincidence. That's your story demanding to be told. So tonight, do the most revolutionary act. Listen to yourself. Don't play music. Don't distract yourself. Don't run. Stay with yourself and write. Not so others understand you. Write to understand yourself. Because if you don't explain to yourself who you are, you'll get lost in a life that makes no sense. And the worst thing you can do isn't failing, it's forgetting yourself. Forgetting yourself. Forgetting yourself is the quietest crime. No one calls you out for it. No one notices at first, but you feel it. You carry it like a shadow that won't leave. Because when you abandon yourself, everything loses meaning. Work, goals, relationships, it all becomes mechanical. And no matter how much you dress it up, you know something essential is missing. That's why writing is a sacred act. It's returning to yourself. It's giving yourself back your voice. It's reclaiming the power you've slowly handed over to others' expectations, to the system, to fear. And yes, at first it'll hurt, because you'll realize how much you've betrayed yourself, how much you've denied yourself. But you'll also feel something else: deep breath, racing heart, a fire telling you you're still in time, because you are. Even if everything seems broken, even if you've messed up 1,000 times, as long as you're alive, you can as long as you can hold a pen, you can break the spell. And you're not doing this just for you, you're doing it for the child you were, for the future you still dream of, for the story you deserve to live. Don't let mediocrity win. Don't become a background character in your own story. You're the protagonist, but you have to claim that role. You have to fight for it. You have to decide your story will matter, because you'll make it matter, not because someone hands it to you. And tonight, if you write from the depths, if you hold nothing back, it'll be your first act of conscious direction, your first true tracking shot, your point of no return. The point of no return isn't a place, it's a moment a decision, a stroke of the pen that says the lie ends here. And in that second, everything changes, not because the world embraces you, not because circumstances get easier, but because you stop lying to yourself, because you finally declare yourself, because you finally declare yourself the author of your story. And here's what no one warned you about. There will be resistance from within, from without. Comfort will scream, your environment will doubt, and you'll feel like you're walking without a map. But keep going, because every word written is a blow to inertia, every line is a battle won against fear, and every night you choose to face yourself, you're one step closer to the life you can still build. Look back for a moment. Everything you've lived, even the darkest parts, is material. Pain you can now use, wounds you can now turn into script, not to victimize yourself, but to reframe, to free yourself. And when it all feels like too much, write anyway. When you feel there's no way out, write, because as long as you're writing, you're alive, you're awake, you're present, and that's more than millions can say. Don't forget, this isn't about writing a perfect story, it's about writing one that's yours, imperfect, raw, real, because in the end, the only failure is not having lived your own story. And maybe now you understand why Tarantino matters so much in this story. Not because he's famous, not because he's successful, but because he's living proof that an obsession with your truth can defeat any statistic, any disadvantage, any you can't. He obsessed over his voice, not approval, not formulas, his voice, and he defended it like a wild animal, without apology, without softening. That's what you need to do with your story. Stop explaining it. Stop justifying it. Stop asking for permission to live it. No one else has to understand it. No one else has to approve it. Only you, because at the end of the road, only you will be with yourself, carrying your story, with your decisions tattooed in your memory. And if you don't take that role now, someone else will take it for you. The system, expectations, inherited fears, beaten paths, and you'll live a story that isn't yours, one that sounds good, seems safe, but has no soul. So before you sleep tonight, write, not like someone making a to-do list, write like someone bleeding, like someone breaking a chain, like someone reclaiming what they thought was lost forever. Make tonight your before and after, because though it may not seem like it, a single night can change everything, not by magic, but because you decide, once and for all, that your story starts with you, and no one else. This is your final scene, or your opening one. It's up to you, because tonight can be the end of an era where you were a spectator of your life, or the beginning of one where you finally take the lead. Tonight can be the border between the narrative you inherited and the one you choose to write. And that power, that privilege, that responsibility belongs to no one but you. So lift your gaze, breathe, be grateful you're here, because many never made it this far. Many chose to extinguish their inner fire and live asleep. Not you, you're here, and that means there's still something in you that wants to fight, to create, to burn. Don't let that fire die. Protect it, write it, live it. You don't need anyone else to believe in you, only you. You don't need the path mapped out, just the first step. You don't need to figure it all out, just to start. This story isn't written, not yet, and if you do it right, you won't just transform your life, you'll inspire others to rewrite theirs. So do it. Open that notebook, take that pen, and write as if your life depended on it, because it. And remember, fear doesn't disappear before the act. It disappears during, and the story doesn't become legend by avoiding conflict, but by facing it. Estás tu escena, estás tu guión, estás tu momento. Ahora ve, y escribe.